What's happening, everybody? It's your boy Charles Wells, aka C Wells, the host of SWACtalk. So we cover the SWAC inside and out, coming at you with another spring 2021 season recap. As you can see below, we're gonna cover the Southern University Jaguars. Um, Season was okay. I mean, obviously it wasn't as successful as it should have been. They were predicted to be the West Division champs. They did not get that job done, but they finished a fairly respectable season. Had a lot of things to work through during the beginning portion of the season, and they got that done. So we'll talk about that in a minute. Let's get all the intro stuff out of the way before we get started. Facebook.com/SWACtalk, excuse me, Instagram.com/SWACtalk76. SWACtalk76 at gmail.com is the email address. And if you want to show a little love and support to the show, man, I have a cash app. If you want to drop a little bit, I appreciate. If not, it's all good. But the cash app is $ Swag Talk. If you want to go ahead and show a little love to me, I appreciate that. I definitely appreciate everybody subscribing at this point. If you have not done so already, man, please, 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 once you go ahead and subscribe, the show is growing very well. Hit the notification bell to be alerted to any content that I upload. And feel free to jump into the comments. I love to talk back and forth, on the subject at hand. So feel free to drop in the comments. I will respond. Swag Talk Podcast also has an episode dropping today covering Southern University. So that'll be up today. That can be found at anchor.fm/SWACtalk, Spotify, Stitcher, Breaker, Google Podcasts, or Apple Podcasts. You can take those out. So with all of that out of the way, man, let's talk about the Southern football. Jags went 5-1 on the season, mainly due to Alcorn opting out. That gave them extra win. On field, they were 4-1, 3-1 in conference. The Jackson State game was a non-conference game. They went 1-1 at home just because of the forfeit, 0-1 on the field, 3-0 on neutral sites, 1-0, 3-0 on the road, 1-0 on neutral sites. They opened up their season with a 24-21 victory over Alabama State in a game that Southern had. I thought they played very inconsistently, very sloppily. They did get a good start on defense. They had a forced fumble that gave them the ball inside the 5. Alabama State had a goal line stand. Southern got the ball back on a pick six to take the lead. Offensively, they just could never really get any consistency. Alabama State defense was pretty solid. They're a solid unit, and they played very well in this game. Southern did a good job on defense with controlling Alabama State. They never really let them get loose, but they did allow them to cash in a couple big plays to keep the game close. And then a horrible turnover inside Southern's 5-yard line allowed Alabama State to take the lead. But Southern fought back and got the victory in that game. March 6th, they hosted Pine Bluff in their only actual home game. Again, they would ultimately lose 33-30. Very wild game. Pine Bluff came in with some energy that Southern just could not match. Southern got sucked into a lot of undisciplined penalties that was very uncharacteristic of this team. Skelton got benched because of a couple bad plays that he made, penalties, some bad decisions. Pine Bluff was able to jump out to a big lead at the half. Southern fought back, had a chance to get the win or at least force the game in overtime. Through a horrible interception, Pine Bluff was able to run the clock out and ultimately set themselves up to make the win the West Division and go to SWAC championship. March 20th, a very important game in Southern season. They went to Houston to take on Texas Southern. At this point, Southern was brilliant. Southern was, they could have went either way. It was a fourth in a row. I thought the team responded well. They got off to a fairly quick start, and they got a 16-0 start. Texas Southern was able to score a couple of touchdowns in the second quarter. Southern returned a kickoff right before half for a touchdown to get them a 23-14 lead at half. Scored 2 touchdowns in the third quarter, coming directly out of halftime, and basically put their game away. They did what they had to do. Texas Southern is not a good team, but they're a team who can be dangerous if you're not careful. I thought Southern did a good job of handling all of the issues that was surrounding them, building up to that game and playing well in that game. They did have one turnover, but they overcame that. And that's one thing that you kind of gotta understand with Southern. There's gonna be turnovers, but you want to definitely limit them, and hopefully you can force some of your own. And when you can do that, Southern's gonna be successful. April 3rd, they went. Well, excuse me, March 27th was the game with Alcorn. They Alcorn had to forfeit because they opted out. April 3rd, they went to Jackson to take on Jackson State. Game was on ESPN. I thought Southern played very well in this game. This was a game I thought that had a lot of attention, and it was a game that Southern could have lost if they weren't focused. I think they came out and really hit Jackson early and kind of caught them off guard a little bit, and they kind of reverted back to some things that they had in the past, some issues. Southern did a great job of running the football. They ran the ball very well in this game, controlling time of possession. Defensively, they got a lot of pressure on Jackson State quarterbacks. They never really allowed the running game to get going. Jackson State had one big pass play, a beautiful 75-yard pass from Jalen Jones to Dalen Baldwin, neither guy at Jackson anymore. But he made a Baldwin made a one-hand catch in the middle of the field, beat the defender for a touchdown. I thought that was a great play, but they didn't have a lot of opportunities to make plays, and when they did, they just never really got it done. Southern's defensive line got a lot of pressure on Jackson. Southern's offensive line did a good job on Jackson's defensive line. I thought they took a good advantage of Jackson State's linebackers and second and safeties in coverage. They don't really cover that good, at least this season. This spring they didn't. Southern was able to get a lot of things in the middle of the field with the tight end and receivers in the middle of the field and backs out the backfield with the passing game. Two interceptions made this game a little bit closer than what it should have been. Southern did have opportunity to put up extra score at the end of the game, but they took a knee at the one. Fourth quarter, Southern had the ball for about 10 minutes on one drive to basically run the clock out and win the game. So this was a very solid effort for Southern. I thought this was probably at that point their best game of the season. April 10th, the game against Prairie View was postponed and ultimately canceled due to COVID. April 17th, the Bayou Classic took place in Freeport. Grambling came in a bad way. They just they were short on numbers. They were reeling. They were down their third offensive coordinator on the season. Starting quarterback entered the transfer portal during the season. They just didn't have a Grambling season, and Southern basically bullied them all afternoon. Um, 30, I think it was 35-0 at half or 28-0 one or two at halftime. Um, Grambling scored a touchdown in the third quarter, but that was all that they would get. They didn't really move the ball very often. Defensively, they played well at the beginning of the game, but Southern was able to still score points and win that game 49-7. They closed out their season with a 4-1 record on the field, 5-1 once you factor in the all-point forfeit. Offensively, Southern was led in rushing by Ladarius Skelton. Obviously, that's a guy who loves to run the football. He's a threat with his legs. I feel like he can be a better passer than he shows, but you have to allow him to get comfortable. He has to run first before he can be a good passer. And obviously, as a quarterback, you want a guy who can make plays. Not even make plays as far as big plays, but consistent pass plays immediately. You don't need a guy. It's tough to have a guy that has to run the ball a few times and get his confidence up and then make plays because he's not going to beat you in the pocket. Teams, I don't think many teams have done a great job of forcing him to be a pocket quarterback. The last team I can think about that did that was FAMU in 2019. I thought they did a good job against him, not allowing him to run. So if you let him get out of the pocket, he's gonna tear you up because he's a tremendous runner. He can throw the ball. He has a really good arm. There's a misconception that he can't throw. He can throw. He is just not accurate. Obviously, being accurate is a huge part of being a quarterback, but he does have a good arm. I've seen him make some really tough throws, drop the ball in on receivers deep downfield. But he's the kind of guy. If his mechanics go, he's not going to help you. Um, you need to let him do what he does best, and teams are just not going to always allow him to do that. So that's his biggest weakness, and that's what he. I thought he did a better job this season with knowing where to throw the ball. He one of his two interceptions against Jackson State was a tip ball. Ball probably should not have been thrown as high, but that was not his fault 100%. The first interception was just a throw that he should not have made, and you see those kind of plays out of him. But what he gives you on the ground, you can't discount that. Gerard Sims had a really good season in this spring season. He ran for 231 yards, 4 touchdowns. He had a great end of 2019. He had 200 plus yard games at the end of the 2019 season. I'm thinking that he may be stepping more into the lead back role. Devon Ben, he started off very slow. The first couple of games, he looked kind of not really timid, but not aggressive in the hole, running the ball. He had a good game against Jackson, and he's more of a change of pace, pounding type of back. Sims is also a power guy, but he has better speed. And then you have guys like Muhammad, Craig Nelson, Benjamin, also a running back who can run the ball. Um, they also like to use receivers. McClain's a big body receiver. They've used him in short yardage situations. Corey Williams and Kendrick Johnson are also receivers that ran the ball fairly well on jet sweeps and option plays. Passing, Skelton was 37 of 65, 56% completion, 3 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 529 yards. Lampley played a lot this year, 39 of 60, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 525 yards, 65% completion. Southern actually was second in the league in passing efficiency offense. I think that's something that may surprise a few people. Southern obviously led the league in rushing offense and was second in rushing defense. They led the league in scoring offense. They led the league in scoring defense. They led the league in third down percentage. They were the least penalized team in the league. They led the team in most kick. They led the league in most kicking categories. This was a very good team statistically. I don't think they get the respect that they deserve in that aspect. Like I said, a lot of people look at the plays that Skelton missed, and they don't realize that Southern did throw the ball better than a lot of people anticipated. Ethan Howard came from out of nowhere as a freshman tight end. He caught 14 passes, 240 yards. He had 2 touchdowns. He constantly made big plays in every game. Keith McClain, 12 catches, 167 yards, 1 touchdown. Brandon Hinton, 10 catches, 126 yards, 1 touchdown. Corey Williams, 7 catches, 121 yards, 1 touchdown. Sims, 10 catches, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. So yeah, running backs and tight ends that made a lot of plays in the passing game. Receivers weren't great, but a lot of people don't realize that Southern came into this season missing the bulk of their production at receiver. They obviously had lost Hunter Register, who was their leading receiver in 2019. He graduated. Um, Jamal Washington was injured. Cameron Mackey also, I think he also was injured. So their top three receivers did not play in the spring. Obviously, lost one to graduation. Two are still on the team, but they were injured. So that's just something that they did not have that chemistry. But they leaned on the receiver, they leaned on the running back and tight ends a lot, and that's something that can always be exploited. A lot of teams aren't great in the middle of the field, and Southern can take advantage of that, and they definitely did. They have 3 or 4 tight ends who can produce. Those guys were injured a little bit at the beginning of the season, but they got it together. Sims is a guy who can catch the ball out the backfield. Ben can make some catches out of the backfield. Southern's biggest problem in the beginning of the season was fumbles. They fumbled quite a bit against Alabama State and a couple against Pablo. They got that under control. The offense started to click a little bit. Defensively, obviously, when you talk Southern and Southern defense, you have to talk Jordan Lewis. I feel like a lot of people out here don't give him the attention and hype that he deserves. The kid has 10.5 sacks in 5 games, 15 tackles for loss, 27 total tackles, all led the team. Um, he's a monster, man. I mean, this guy is a guy that he had, I think, almost double-digit sacks in the freshman year. In 2018, he had 6 sacks. In 2019, he was injured a bit in 2019. And he's getting bigger and stronger every year. He's a guy who came in as a speed guy, he's a track guy, not the biggest guy, obviously, especially at defensive end, but he's a guy who can get out there, and if you let him get that first step on you, he is going to sack the quarterback. But he's learning how to play defensive end as far as technique and pass rush moves. So he's able to work inside a little bit more. He doesn't just have a speed rush on the outside. You have to account for him. If you double him, then a guy like Jalen Ivey can make plays. Tyron Nash and Davin Cotton are both guys in the middle who are playing better. The middle of the defensive line was not that good at the start of the season, but as they got better, the rest of the defense got better. Secondary are guys that will hit you. They're not big, but they will hit you. They have good speed and they can make some plays when the ball is in the air. A guy like Chase Foster, who's an all-conference guy, he's a guy who's gonna knock your block off if you let him get to you. Marie Smith, a guy who can get intercepted, and they've added a couple pieces of secondary through the portal. So defensively, Southern's gonna be who they are. They're gonna stop the run first and foremost, and then they're gonna kind of be bend but don't break against the pass, and they're not gonna let you score very often in the red zone. So this is a team who I think a lot of people are not paying attention to. They don't have a lot of flashy pieces. They don't have a lot of attention and hype around them. But when I look at and listen to what people say about the upcoming season, a lot of people are not talking about Southern, and I do not understand why. This team is returning the bulk of their team. This is probably the most experienced team in the league. These guys have been in the Southern program for 3, 4, 5 years. They know what it takes to win. They still know that they have goals to attain because of losing to Alcorn 2 years in a row. They know that they still have a lot to attain. They're still hungry. And I just feel like a lot of people are overlooking Southern, which makes no sense to me. Yes, I'm wearing a Southern hat, but this is a team who is good at playing football. I mean, obviously they're a good team. They have some flaws, but every team has flaws. But I'm not saying Southern should be picked to win the league. But to say that they're not even a contender right now, I think that's asshole stupid. That is just the dumbest statement that I can hear. This team is they're obviously a contender for the West Division. They found a way to end that Alcorn problem. They're in the championship game. Now, what they do when they get there, that's a whole other topic. But to say that there's 4 teams who are legit contenders and they're not one of the 4, that's just stupid, man. I'm sorry. I'll say that about any team. If you switch this team to Thune Cookman, Alabama State, whoever, and they had these same measurables and players that Southern has, you cannot discount that. I mean, obviously Odom's is gone, but they retained the folk and their coaching staff. They only added 2 new. They only lost 2 coaches from themselves to go with Odom. They have a coach who is experienced. He's been around college football a long time. He understands what this program is about, and all he has to do is maintain. And if you got guys that you're gonna give guys the benefit of the doubt who haven't really coached in college football, then you need to give the benefit of the doubt to the guys who have actually coached in this game. So I don't see Southern having very much of a drop off. Obviously, I could be wrong. I've been wrong before, especially with picking teams. 2018, I thought Alabama State was going to win the division, and I'm 4th. So I've been wrong a lot. But I just feel like Southern, at this point in the season, Southern deserves some respect on their name, and I'm gonna carry that flag for Southern, man. I mean, I'm not gonna homer it, but I will not let that slide, man, because that just doesn't make any sense to me. So that's gonna do it for the show today. We will be back Wednesday with an episode of the SWACtalk Time Machine. I haven't figured out what game we want to cover yet, but I will do that. And then on Sunday we'll have a YouTube and um, podcast episodes covering Texas Southern, and there's 2 game spring season. So We'll be back with more SWAC talk. This is your boy Charles Well signing out. I will holler at you. Enjoy your fourth.